start by thanking the constituents of Ansbury Canries for having me here, electing me to be part of this honorable house to represent them. And I thank the Almighty for giving me the strength and health to be here on behalf of the people of my constituency. Mr. Speaker, so far I find the debate has been exciting. Unlike the previous debate, which turned out to be more of a monologue. But I'm excited that members on my side have been able to give good of themselves in response to what has been coming out from the opposition side, and that they quite eloquently delivered to support what has been a very interesting debate. Mr. Speaker, mentioning debates, and with reference to some of the opinions that have been expressed on the opposition side, where mention was made of the last debate in this House, the member, for example, of Castries Southeast did indicate that without opposition, there is no debate. And to some extent, that is right. He was right for once on one thing, but not completely. Also, the member for Micoud North yesterday went on to suggest that the lack of a debate was due, in fact, to the members on this side lacking any substance, or that not one member could come up in support of the estimates of expenditure and revenue in the last debate. But I want to remind the honorable members of what we mean when we speak of a debate. If you do look at the meaning of debate in any of the dictionaries, and I just use the Oxford's quotation, the Oxford quote, where it is indicated that a debate is a formal discussion on a particular matter in a public meeting or legislative assembly, as is our case, in which opposing arguments are put forward. And depending on where you read or which book, or if you look at it on the internet, opposing arguments are highlighted. Because this is what primarily constitutes a debate, that you must have opposing arguments. So you don't necessarily have to have an opposition. Because as you're quite aware, in one of our sister islands where I think there's a 15 knot, Grenada, there is no opposition. But I'm sure they have parliamentary debates. But the point is you don't need an opposition. Because it is quite possible that members on this side can oppose some of the things that, some of the items that the Prime Minister and the member for Beaufort South gave in his presentation. But the fact that no one stood to oppose what was presented on that day, it is clear that there would not have been a debate. So, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to put that in perspective, because you see they go out there and make people believe that we were not saying anything, that this side could have stood up and spoke. But we were all in agreement. We were all supportive of what was presented. So all we needed was some opposing arguments to commence the debate. It was not forthcoming, and we know the history. Mr. Speaker, the member for Castries Southeast, at what was to me a low point, indicated that members on this side have always criticized him, saying that he cannot read and write. I mean, I don't know how that came into the debate, but he even indicated that he suggested that he, on his side, if he is not there to add some impetus to the debate, there's no excitement, there's no debate, as if he is the one who really stimulates the debate in the House. You know, exactly, you know. But, Mr. Speaker, if you research and you go through Hansard, for the years I've been here, there's no indication in those documents that any member on this side, in their presentation, whether on a point of elucidation or on a point of order, have ever indicated that the member for Castries Southeast cannot read or write. So I think it is something that we must point out, that the members must speak the truth in the House and not accuse people falsely. But, Mr. Speaker, the member for Castries Southeast knows exactly why members on this side are quick to retort to what he says, or there's always a litany of rebuttals to the things he says in this House. Mr. Speaker, because the records will show that the member for Castries Southeast has a history of saying a number of untruths, half-truths, real truths, lies, no matter how you want to call it, misrepresentation of the facts in this House. And it is because of these instances that we have to pull him up to scratch and retort to what he says in the House, Mr. Speaker. The records will also show, Mr. Speaker, that on numerous occasions we have to have interruptions, points of elucidation, Mr. Speaker. There are a number of occasions when the member for Castries Southeast would make statements that he cannot support with factual evidence, that he would say things and there's no documents to prove what he says, as we saw yesterday in the sit-in. So when you come to a debate with this sort of posture, trying to spin the minds of people out there by twisting what is in the documents presented in the House, saying a number of half-truths, then you must expect that you will get some sort of rebuttals from the government side. And I think the proposing side has done a fantastic job in retorting to the allegations that are made by the member for Castries Southeast in this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, again, we have persons going on, members of the opposite side, going on the media, making comments about the fact that in this honorable House, all she ever hears when she comes in, or at this particular the presentation by the Prime Minister and member for Beaufort South, all she has is the same regurgitation and recycling of failed policies. So that begs the question as to whether she did indeed have a copy of the budget presentation. Or, well, has she read it? The same persons who are saying that they are not presented with documents or they don't have documents beforehand. A document is presented documenting the budget presentation, and there she speaks of recycling the same sort of regurgitation of failed policies. But, Mr. Speaker, the only regurgitation and recycling that I hear are the lies and the mistruths and the misrepresentations of the facts in the document from the members on this side. This is the only regurgitation. Year in, year out, we get the same posture of misrepresenting the facts in the documents by members of the opposition. So, Mr. Speaker, they must be careful in their delivery when looking at when debating the facts presented in the budget debate. The member for Castries Southeast again went on a point of representation in constituencies, though he didn't mention which constituency. But as part of that proclamation, he did indicate that he has this, what is the second largest constituency that he can handle very well, and even if the pieces added onto it, he'll do very well. He will be more than able to handle his constituency. But I would like, he's not there today, as is usual. In cricket, you retired hurt, retired also, but he's retired incompetent. But Mr. Speaker, I want him to explain as to why a number of persons from his constituency comes to on my constituency day, comes to my office to get assistance, whether it's for work or to bury the dead. The Minister for Infrastructure, Honorable Member for Castries East, can speak of the number of letters I do write to him from time to time from persons from the constituency of Castries Southeast who come to me seeking assistance for work. Same in the case of SSDF. So I do not know who he was referring to when he spoke of representation in his constituencies, but clearly, if there was proper representation, then I'm sure those persons would not have the need to come to my constituency office. People from Cooley Town, Bele, even as far as Sarat. So he has to be careful what he says in this honorable house. Yes. He can handle it, and if you add a piece onto it, he can handle it, but now he is worried about the fact that there's a proposal to cut the constituency. Now, Mr. Speaker, during the course of the debate, we've heard all this emotion or quote-unquote expression of empathy for the poor. All of a sudden, you hear from the opposition a cry for the poor. And they attack us for not doing enough or not doing anything to help the poor. They make statements about increasing taxes hurting the poor. From the way they speak, Mr. Speaker, you would swear that the members on this side, the government on this side, created poverty. Poverty has always been there. Even Jesus Christ said, the poor will always be with us. But they speak as if it is this side of the house that members of this side created poverty, Mr. Speaker. All big countries, all big economies have poverty. The United States of America, China, Brazil, you saw in the last World Cup, some of the highlights of Brazil, the amount of poverty. These are countries with growing and booming economies. So it is not about having poverty. It's how government deals with the poverty in this country. That is what matters. And the history in this country, in this house, of governments in this house, will show that this government, governments of the St. Lucia Labour Party, have always put in policies that are directed at alleviating some of the hardships of the poor people in this country. Social programs, which I will come to in a while. You know, when we put in policies and make recommendations to assist the poor, when they get into office, they remove them. And yet you want to hear them cry and plead for for the poor in this country. It's shameful, Mr. Speaker. You have persons speaking about our policies are taking food away from the table of poor people. The member for Castries Southeast saying that poor people cannot eat in this country, that they have no disposable income. You hear them making reference to eating chicken or bones, bones without meat. Reference to chicken back, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, I don't know if these members ever ate fried chicken back, you know. If you ever ate fried backs or barbecue backs, you'll understand why maybe this is the food that these people love. I love my roast backs. Oh yes. Another thing of today, you know, Mr. Speaker, if you go out anywhere nowadays, whether it's the grocery, fish nice and so on, if you go there too late, you wouldn't get roast backs or barbecue backs. It finishes fast. Exactly. But don't criticize the food and indicate that is what we are providing for the people of this country. But I hope it won't happen to chicken back what happened to saltfish. Because saltfish was a poor man's food. And today it's a delicacy that they now cannot afford. So one has to be careful of the things that they say in here with regards to this government not taking care of the poor. If we look at some of the policies that are put in place in this budget debate, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of policies that are in this budget that are there directed to helping the poor. I know people hate to hear about the STEP program, but if we know the intention of the STEP program and the category of persons that it is intended for, people will understand why it is important for the Minister of Finance to inject another $3.5 million into STEP in this country for this financial year. And the people of Answeray Canneries are happy that they will be getting the Step Up program once again. Another 3.5 out of the $3.5 million. We had it for the first year, but due to the economic constraints, there was a halt on it, but now it will be back. So there are people who are not able to obtain jobs, but who have bills to pay, will get an opportunity under the Step Up, alongside with the STEP, to take care of their business. They are the ones who abolished STEP when they came in during the last tenure in office. So why must they cry about policies that we put in place to help the poor? We see another $3.5 million to SSDF for the Hope and Kudme St. Lucie portfolios. Who benefits from that? It is the poor. So in his wisdom, the Minister of Finance has injected another $3.5 million into that. I don't hear them talking about that. Reduction in the price of cooking gas. Mr. Speaker, there were persons who couldn't buy a tank, the 20-pound tank of gas for cooking. And I know very well there's an elderly lady that I sometimes visit in Answeray who always cooked on her coal pot. But she had a nice this little free burner stove in her kitchen that she never used because she could not have afforded gas. But sometime February, early March this year, when the price of gas went down, she was able to afford a tank of gas. And for the first time in almost 9 years, she was able to use her stove. And she was able to So these are the things that they wouldn't tell you about. You see? They would make a fuss about the rising price of gasoline on vehicles. Poor people don't drive vehicles. Mr. Speaker, due to the personal tax reform in this country, there are more persons, approximately 2,750 persons, who will no longer be paying the personal income tax because of the measures of raising the allowance to the personal allowance to 25,000. These are measures aimed at alleviating the situation, the economic situation for certain households in this country. They make no fuss about that because there's nothing to lie about it. It's there. Increase in funeral grants. Every minister or parliamentary rep knows the persons who come to them for assistance with funeral grants. It is not the well-off, it is the poor families who cannot bury their dead. So it has been increased from 1,750 to 2,500. So they can better be able to bury the dead. Increases in NIC pension benefits. Again, we know a large number of persons, the larger portions of persons in this country who will benefit from that. Again, the poor and persons in the lower income bracket. Then when you look at, you go up the scale, up the economic scale, we look at the measures that have been taken, whereby they have increased the threshold, the VAT threshold to $400,000. So now you have at least approximately 600 persons, VAT registrants, who will not be required to collect VAT. Not unless they want to voluntarily. So I do not understand what the leader of the opposition means when she speaks of a regurgitation and recycling of failed policies. Because clearly, these are new policies. They're not the same old policies. And based on the improvement that we saw from the last budget, measures like these were taken. The member for Castries Southeast, in his eagerness to indicate that all the government does is raise taxes, and it's hurting the poor. And he jumped on to talk about increases in licenses. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned early on, poor people don't buy cars. So we are not expecting poor people to be affected by the increase in licenses. As a matter of fact, the poor people are more likely to take the bus. They will either walk to where they're going or take the bus. So in his wisdom, the Minister for Finance has decided that he will not increase the licenses for passenger vehicles. But not only that, for 3 years he's going to waiver the payment of the route bans. So one should anticipate that there will not be an increase in bus fares. So who benefits from that? The poor. So the members on this side, before coming into this house, they won't touch it. But yet they will say that we are the ones who are punishing the poor people in this country. By coming to that, I don't know why he isn't here today. But he is the same one that is saying that he will do all in his power. He will do all in his power to make sure that this government does not implement this increase in licenses. Even if there'll be a revolution, he said, or there'll be demonstration in what color? Orange? What are you going to demonstrate against that for? Why you want to demonstrate against this? We know that the governments in the past does not have the revenue to maintain the roads in this country. What does the increase in licenses amount to? More revenue to help in the maintenance of the roads in this country. So there's no way that increasing licenses will in any way hamper the poor people in this country. But if he is going to demonstrate or do anything in his power to prevent the increase in licenses, I hope when the roads in his constituency go bad, he doesn't come to the Minister of Infrastructure to ask for money to maintain the roads, because this is the source of revenue for that purpose. So you can't have your cake and eat it. Now, there has been also the notion that the policies of this government has instead of going forward, we're going in reverse. It was mentioned on this side by the same member for Castries Southeast and even the member for Dennery South. If we are going in reverse, well, that's good. Because we are reversing from the calamity that we are in, the calamity that they put us in. That's what we're reversing from. Yes. You're going down a precipice, you want to go forward? And there's no way you're going to be going down a precipice and just swing back up. Only Superman could do that. So you must first reverse, and when you get to the top, you turn around and correct things. So, Mr. Speaker, the members on this side, in their contribution, must think carefully at the things that they say and not do it to play on the minds of people. Let the people know the good that is in the budget. You oppose if you think that you have a better idea, better concept that may improve things. But we had no ideas, no concepts, except for the member for Castries Central. Well, I haven't heard the member for Castries North yet, but in his previous contributions to this House, they are void of any ideas. And if they have any ideas, and they're hoping that they will implement it when they get in, then let them think twice, because they ain't getting in a hurry. They will not be getting in a hurry. So you might as well share what little ideas you have if you're interested in the development of the country. But, Mr. Speaker, all in all, it has been an interesting debate. I can't say much for the member for Dennery South, but his presentation reminded me of a night in the cabaret. I don't know what substance he was drinking there. I assume it is the water, you know. But he would say a set of confusing things, then he would fire one. He would come back again and confuse me even more, fire one again. And at the end of the hour, I was none the wiser, more foolish. But it was all part of an interesting debate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government has, in the last financial year and previous financial year, done quite a bit for the constituency of Ansari Canneries. And I must say thanks to the Minister for Finance and the other members, the other ministers from the various ministries who in their part have played a role in allowing me to do what I have done for the people of Ansari Canneries in the past and the last financial year. Whereas in 2013, 2014, in my last presentation, I mentioned of the 67 projects that were under the Community Development Projects program. We were able to get at least 67 projects. Last year, we were able to get at 40 projects off. And when you think of the average number of persons working on a project, the average would be about 5. Some persons will employ 3, some will employ 6, 8, depends on the size of the project. So on average, about 200 households in the constituency were able to benefit from these projects. Projects totaling in the region of about $900,000. The community development projects continues to be of vital importance to families in the constituency to give them a little breathing space. We are hoping that this financial year we will be able to do more. There are a number of projects outlined to be done under the Community Development Projects program, and we are hoping that we will continue with some of the drainage works in the different areas, especially Millet, Vanna, Mondo, Jacmel, Warden, Anslary, Anslavedi, Belvedere, Canneries. We are hoping that we will be able to do much more than the 67 we did in the previous years. So I'm ever thankful for the contributions under the community development projects that brings in a little revenue into the community and allow people to clear off some of their debts, and some who have problems sending their children to school for one reason or another. In the area of jobs, Mr. Speaker, I cannot again thank more the programs under NICE. I mean, there's been so much criticism from the opposition of NICE, and I sometimes wonder why persons in their good mind would want to be so critical of the programs under NICE. So far, in the constituency of Ansari Canneries, a little over 140 families have been impacted under the NICE programs, the programs under NICE. In the farm worker projects, we have approximately 40 persons. In the home help program, another 40 plus persons, and for this financial year, we may be looking at another 20 persons, because we were asked to submit 20 names again for continuation. I submitted 40. But only 20 will be selected. They'll go through the usual interviews and so forth, and then the most needy of them will be selected. I mean, there are numerous programs: caretaker watchman program, IT assistant program, the night watchman, principal assistants, you name it. The plain field maintenance officers, electricians, the nursing graduates, janitors, cooks at the school. So maybe by August, we'll be looking at about 160 households which will gain revenue. And Mr. Speaker, these jobs are not like nice. I'm sorry, like step. These are persons who are getting a monthly salary. And it is year-round. So I don't understand how the members on this side insist that this government is not acting in the interest of the people in this country. Hopefully, towards the end of this year, we should see the commencement of some works get towards the establishment of the Belvedere Plantation Estate from the Boca Group of companies. We must thank them not just for the intention of constructing this resort, but also because of the interest that they have shown in the people of Canaries, in the development of the people of Canaries. We have long known that government after government have been trying to find a way to ease the burden of the people in Canaries, slated as one of the poorest communities in this country. The Boca Group have not even started. They have contributed to the school feeding program, in the infant and primary schools in Canaries. I met with the director, the local director, not too long ago, and I also saw him again over the jazz, and we were discussing the fact that the Boca Group is also going to be looking at a beautification project for Canaries. And when Mr. Kennedy, the director, comes down, he will summon me to a meeting so that we can discuss the manner in which this will be done. We have been assured by Mr. Kennedy, that is the director of the group, of the Boca Group of companies, that sometime about October, November, they shall be commencing on the construction of the road that will lead to the property, and that will be a relief to a community in Belvedere that has been without roads and lights. Well, they have none. It's a development where persons have bought land and they cannot even start building on their property because there's no electricity and the road is not more trouble. So, as a joint government private sector partnership with the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Boca Group of companies, sometime later this year, about November, as I was told by the local director, they will be starting the construction of the road and they will be putting light. So the residents in this community, and I know the member for Rosalie, who has relatives in that area, will be elated because they have been at me, they have been at her to get at me, and she does. She does. But these things take a little time, but it will be coming. It's not easy, Mr. Speaker, when you have a family who has moved from England years ago with all the fridge and everything in a house and there's no electricity. And that is the same for a number of families there. So I'm happy that the Boca Group has taken an interest in that. The beauty about this resort, as has been described, that the furniture for the resort will, as far as I'm informed by the director, will not be imported. They will be relying on local production. So all the craftsmen and tradesmen in the communities spanning from Bouton to Ancillary will get an opportunity to make furniture for the company. So the indication is that they will not be importing furniture. And also, a large percentage of the food that will be used in the hotel, in the resort, will come from the farmers in the constituency. So it is a difference. It's a different approach by this resort. We are hoping that once it is started, during the construction phase, there may be up to about 200 persons employed, and once completed, another 200 persons will be employed working in the hotel. So this is going to be a welcome source of revenue for persons in the ancillary canneries community. And I cannot thank the Boca Group of companies much more than I have done in the past. In the area of sports, Mr. Speaker, we are well aware that ancillary and canneries have been winners of the Black Hat in recent times, the Black Hat competition. I think canneries is the current champion. We have seen a number of improvements in sporting activities in the constituency of ancillary canneries. We know too well that Johnson Charles, the West Indies batsman, is from Millet. This community has a wealth of talent in sports, and the government, through the Minister for Youth and Sports and the Minister for Finance, has seen it fitting to provide an upgrade of the playing field in ancillary with lighting. And as we speak, preparations are being made for the construction of changing rooms and sitting pavilion for the field, the grounds in ancillary and canneries. So it is a reward for good work. It's a reward for excellence. And I know that the young sportsperson in the community are elated. Right now we have a number of football matches, domestic football leagues and so forth, running competitions on the ancillary playing field, and the crowd that attend these matches are remarkable. In those areas, Mr. Speaker, sports generates discipline among young people. There's a love and an energy for sports in this community, and I'm happy that the government saw it fit to provide the residents, the youth of the community, with those playing fields. Well, upgrades of these playing fields. And as the Minister for Sports mentioned, we are now seeing, we have revamped the Youth and Sports Council. We are now have the football leagues going, and we are seeing a move to better organization of clubs in the constituency. And that is bringing some level of discipline among the young people in the community. So I must give kudos to the Minister for Finance and also the Minister of Sports for seeing it fit to grant these two projects to ancillary and canneries. There are other playing fields, Jackmel, Vanna, and I'm looking to see myself whether through the CDP that I can use some of these funds. For example, in Jackmel, we need to improve on the drainage around the field because there is a problem with the surface and waterlogging in some areas. So I'm hoping that once there is proper drainage and later on they can fix the areas of the field that requires improvement. The Vanna Court, that also, we have commenced some upgrading there. But there's been installation of lights there, and we will see again the beautification of the court by doing painting, power washing, painting, and remarking of the courts and so forth. So that will be taken care of.
Honourable Member, you have 15 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I am not too worried along this line. I think the government is doing quite a bit in sports for the community. In health, Mr. Speaker, very soon we will see the construction of the health center in Ancillary. The long-awaited, long-anticipated construction of a new health center. Only a week before, I was in a meeting with the stakeholders, the Ministry of Health, NIPRO, and other Ministry of Infrastructure, and others. We were given a preview of the designs for this health center, and I must say, Mr. Speaker, it is going to be the most modern of its kind in St. Lucia. I don't want to use the words coined by others in the past as state-of-the-art and this sort of thing. But it's going to be a model health center, which may very well be a template for other health centers. It is environmentally friendly, eco-friendly, and the design, the layout is, I must say, Ancillary deserves it. And the layout is going to also help with the aesthetics of the community as you enter the village of Ancillary. So I am looking forward for the commencement of this project, which I know will bring much needed employment in Ancillary. Under the flood mitigation program, a number of meetings have been conducted to look at the situation with the flooding in Ancillary. We have a situation in the mangrove area behind the police station that has caused problems for residents in that area. In collaboration with the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Disaster Management Committee, NEMO, Ministry of Health, and other ministries, we have met on a number of occasions, like I said, to see how we could tackle that problem. So very soon we'll see, with regards to alleviating the problem in that area, we will see the construction of gabion baskets behind the police station through the Ministry of Infrastructure. So we are hoping that this will commence very soon. And also the construction of a gabion basket in the river next to the infant school in Ancillary. So that is going to be just one phase in the alleviation of this problem in Ancillary. With regards to roads, as mentioned early on by the Minister of Finance, there will be assistance given for the construction or rehabilitation of roads in the constituency. And as mentioned, the Kaiko Road, which the people of Kaiko have been begging for the longest while, previous governments. Finally, we will see the commencement of works done on the Kaiko Road to alleviate the problem there. I must at this point say a special thank you to Mr. Benedict Gaston, better known in the area as Goudet, who has used his backhoe on a number of occasions to do a little grading and rolling of the road at times when, after heavy rains, when it goes bad, free of charge. He has used his backhoe selflessly to assist in improvements on the road. So I'm happy, I must say thanks to him. And of course, once that road is complete, the residents in Kaiko will no longer have the problems where buses are not driving in there to drop them to their homes. Also, the Venus Ancillary Link Road, I think sometime mid last year, about July, funds were allocated for works on the Venus Ancillary Link Road. So we are hoping that sometime during the course of the financial year that works will commence on that road. There's also the construction of the bridge in Canaries to replace the Bailey Bridge that is currently there. Sometime later in the year, we will see commencement on the Canaries, works on the Canaries Bridge. This year, yes. As we are aware, the road from Millet to Tetchime has been in a deplorable state for some time. Some potholing was started a couple months ago, about March. We looked at potholing the more serious areas, but at some point we were out of asphalt and the works was halted for a little while. So I've been assured that sometime, once we've taken care of some of the roads mentioned earlier on, that we will continue the potholing and improvement of the road from Roseau to Tetchime. Also, Mr. Speaker, we are anticipating in the next coming months the presentation of community access centers in Ancillary and Canaries. The people and the youth of Canaries, I promised them ever since we got into office. When I was first informed that they would be getting it, they were told about it, and they have been waiting patiently. But now it's going to become a reality for them. So the Community Access Center and the free Wi-Fi in the community will do wonders for the young persons in Canaries, where sometimes you see them sitting down by somebody's home stealing a little Wi-Fi. So that will be a thing of the past. Also, I have spoken to sponsors, private sponsors, who are willing to contribute to a small community access center in Boaden. Previous representatives for this constituency in this honorable house have misled the people in Boaden time and time again, indicating that there was IT center and so forth in Boaden, whereby there was only a shell. A washroom was retrofitted, but no computers, nothing after 5 years of the previous government. Well, finally, I'm going to get assistance to have some computers placed in there so that we can provide some computer access for the young people in Jackmel, Boaden. Under schools, we've seen repairs to the Ancillary Primary School, where we had surfacing of the playground at a cost of almost a little over $200,000. We also saw the fixing of the roof of the primary school. Currently undergoing is the construction of a new block at the Canaries Infant School, which was severely affected by the December 13th Christmas Eve trough. So works are currently taking place there. And we're looking at a project in the cost of over $800,000. So, Mr. Speaker, a lot has been done thus far under such trying times, I must say. And the people of Ancillary Canaries can look forward to more in this coming financial year. Time doesn't permit me to mention all. But there are other concerns in small areas. For example, the Canaries Market. The Canaries Market was demolished after Hurricane Thomas, and no attention has been paid to it. So I'm going to see whether I could discuss with the Minister of Finance to see if we can get some support to have a reconstruction of this market. The fishers in Canaries, if you know the history of this, I mean, what's going on. When they go out and they have a large haul, they cannot store their fish. So they put it at people's home in people's fridge. Sometimes they leave it out in the nets, and they will go take some fish, come and sell, and then the next day go and take some fish. This has to be a thing of the past. So I would like to see proper storage facilities for the fishers in Canaries with a reconstruction of the Canaries Market.
Honourable Member, you have 5 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm dead on track. The community of Ancillary Canneries has a wealth of talent in the arts, the performing arts. But density of population, you may say they have the highest per capita talent, and it has been displayed on the national stage on a number of occasions. Dancers, skit writers, players, singers, you name it. But Ancillary does not have a community center. And the young person, they have no means, rooms for rehearsals and space to display their talent in the community. Whereas Canneries has one. But the community center or a cultural center, I think it would be fitting for this government at some point in time to allow the young artists in Ancillary Canneries a lovely cultural center, or whatever is best necessary, so that they can actually find a place to house their activities. So I'm looking forward to that. There's been much talk about an ambulance service, but I am sure that once the health center is completed, that we would have an ambulance service, because in the designs for our health center, there's provision for an ambulance. Mr. Speaker, a fire appliance in Ancillary is something that the constituents in that area have been begging for a long time. So I'd like to ask that the government look for some way. I know it's not going to be an easy task, but we need to find some way. Over the last 2 years, we had about 5 fires. All the homes been completely demolished, and thank God it has not been that bad, considering the congestion of the houses in the village, that we haven't had a disaster where that is concerned. But that is thanks to the grace of God. But we need to provide for the people in Ancillary, and I'm hoping that somewhere along the line, before the term of office is completed, that we can provide for fire appliance. Excuse me. And finally, we have been working on the provision of a gas station in Ancillary. We've had hurdles in the past. We had a problem with the Fishers Cooperative. Finally, we have been able to have a new cooperative going. But our big problem is a location for the fire station. And I'm hoping that with the constraints for space in the village of Ancillary, that we can at some point arrive at a location that can house the fire station. Sorry, the gas station, because we have had donations from Rubis of $150,000 US. So once we are able to get things going, I'm hoping that we can have that for the people of Ancillary. Mr. Speaker, that is what I had planned to discuss or contribute to the debate in this House. I'd like to thank all who have had the patience to listen to my contribution. And again, I'd like to say thanks to the people of Ancillary Canneries for their support throughout the last 3.5 years, and for their continued support in the years to come. I thank you, and I hope that the debate continues to be as healthy as when it commenced. I thank you.